The night before Salamis, I believed the sea itself would kneel before me. I was Xerxes, king of kings, ruler of the greatest empire on earth, and I had come to break Greece beneath the weight of Persia. I remember the wind that moved across the strait, restless and cold, carrying the scent of salt and timber. Below me, ships waited in disciplined rows, their hulls dark against the water. Behind me stood an empire that stretched from the Indus to the Nile. Before me lay a narrow passage and a coalition of defiant cities who believed they could resist what the world had already accepted. History would say that this was the moment my fate turned, but fate does not turn in a single hour. It gathers slowly through bloodlines, through inheritance, through decisions made long before armies meet at sea. I was born into empire. I was Xerxes, son of Darius, son of Astaspis, of the house of Achaemenid. My father had secured the throne through strength and legitimacy forged in rebellion. He crushed pretenders, restored order, and inscribed his authority into stone at Behistun. From him, I inherited not merely a crown, but a structure held together by discipline and law. My mother, Atossa, was the daughter of Cyrus the Great. Through her, I carried the blood of the founder. In the courts of Susa and Persepolis, lineage was not ceremony, it was exhortation. From childhood I understood that I stood at the convergence of two legacies, the conqueror who created the empire, and the ruler who stabilized it. I was not the eldest of my father's sons, but I was the eldest born of Atossa. That distinction secured my succession. My father named me heir while he still lived, ensuring continuity and silencing dispute before it could mature into rebellion. I observed how he governed, how he appointed satraps, measured loyalty, demanded tribute, yet allowed custom. The empire endured not by erasing difference, but by commanding allegiance. Many peoples, many gods. Many languages, one king. When my father died in 486 BCE, I ascended the throne without open contest. Yet no empire greets a new ruler with stillness. It tests him. Egypt revolted, Babylon followed. They mistook transition for weakness. I moved first against Egypt, suppressing the uprising and reasserting control. Then I turned to Babylon, a city that had long remembered its former greatness. Rebellion cannot be tolerated in a realm built on unity. The city was subdued, its symbols of autonomy removed. Order was restored. Only then could I return to the design my father had left unfinished. Years earlier, Persian forces had been defeated at Marathon. It was not a loss of territory, but of prestige. My father intended to answer it. His death placed that responsibility upon me. I did not rush into Greece. Preparation is the true measure of kingship. Bridges were constructed across the Hellespont to bind Asia to Europe. A canal was cut through the Athos Peninsula to prevent the storms that had once destroyed our fleet. Storehouses lined the route of advance. The army assembled from every province: Medes, Persians, Egyptians, Phoenicians, Lydians, Babylonians, men from the distant east. The empire marched as a single body. When the first bridges were destroyed by storm, I ordered the waters symbolically chastised and the engineers punished. It was not rage against nature, it was a declaration that disorder would not stand unanswered. The second bridges held. I crossed into Europe at the head of my forces. Many Greek cities submitted. They saw the scale of what approached them. Others chose resistance. At Thermopylae, a narrow pass held by Leonidas of Sparta, our advance was delayed. For days his small force resisted with discipline. Yet terrain cannot protect against encirclement. A concealed path revealed their flank. The pass fell. Leonidas and his warriors died where they stood. Their defiance would become legend. But legend did not halt our march. Athens was abandoned before our arrival. We entered the city and burned it. The temples were reduced to ash. It was reprisal, and warned a message to those who equated defiance with honor. And yet Greece was not subdued. At Salamis, confined waters turned advantage into confusion. I watched from the heights as our fleet engaged the allied Greeks. Ships collided in chaos. Maneuver was restricted. Numbers compressed into disorder. The Greeks fought with familiarity in those narrow straits. That day the sea did not kneel. The loss did not break the empire, but it altered the campaign. I withdrew the greater part of the army to Asia, leaving Mardonius to continue operations. A king must preserve the core of his dominion. Expansion cannot justify annihilation. The following year, Persian forces were defeated at Plataea, and our fleet suffered at Mytilene. Greece would remain beyond imperial administration. I returned to my capitals not as a dethroned ruler, but as a king whose western ambition had met its boundary. Persepolis rose in splendor during my reign. I expanded the palaces begun by my father. Reliefs depicted delegations from every corner of the empire bringing tribute and ordered procession. Architecture spoke where armies could not. Stone proclaimed permanence. I maintained the imperial system, satrapies governed locally yet accountable to the throne, roads binding provinces, respect for local traditions beneath imperial authority. The empire remained vast, stable, and prosperous. Yet courts breed intrigue as readily as loyalty. In 465 BCE, conspiracy reached me within my own palace. Artabanus and his allies moved against the throne. I was killed not on a battlefield, but at the center of the empire I had defended. After my death, my son Artaxerxes secured succession and purged the conspirators. The line endured. The empire continued. The Greeks would shape much of the narrative that survived me. They would speak of excess, of hubris, of a king who sought to master sea and continent alike. They would define their identity through resistance, but they would not deny the scale of what I commanded. From the Indus to the Nile, from Anatolia to the edges of Libya, my authority was recognized. Roads carried royal commands across thousands of miles. Peoples of many nations lived under one imperial structure. I did not create that foundation, but I sustained it. The campaign in Greece did not end in annexation. That truth remains. Yet empire is not measured solely by what it fails to conquer, but by what it holds together. I stood at the edge of Europe with the strength of Asia behind me. I believed preparation and will would bend geography itself. I learned that even kings encounter limits. Still, I was Xerxes' great king, king of kings, ruler of lands and peoples beyond counting. The bridges have long vanished. The ships have rotted into memory, but the name remains, and with it, the echo of empire.